When we look back on 2019, I think it will be safe to say that this was the year of emulation handhelds. Several great devices hit the market in the last few months, from the RG350 to the hard-to-acquire GameKitty 350H. But the earlier part of the year saw some really good releases from the end of the Gen 1 era. Now that we're comfortably in the swing of Gen 2 with faster processors and beautiful 3.5-inch IPS screens, you may have been asking yourself, where's the Pocket Go 2? The first promotional material for this device came out around 3 months ago at this point, and for the most part, it seems like this device completely missed its window of opportunity. In its absence, the RG350 has been able to thrive relatively unchallenged, but for anyone that was off-put by the dual joystick option, was the Pocket Go 2 worth the long wait? And while we're at it, why is this device taking so long to come to market? Well, today we're going to answer all of that and more with this first ever Pocket Go 2 review. Hello everyone, my name is Taki, and the following video is the culmination of weeks worth of emails, phone conversations, and hours of travel to get the device that you are seeing here today. If you enjoy my work and you want to support the channel, I only ask that you consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like below. It would really mean the world to me. The device that you see here comes from the Chinese brand for this unit, but it's also known as the Pocket Go. It may in fact also be known at a later date by a different name, but all of these devices are exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the branding. Let's kick things off with a rundown of the specs of this unit. The Pocket Go 2 features a 3.5-inch IPS display with a resolution of 320 by 240. The CPU is a JZ4770 chip clocked at 1 GHz with 512 MB of RAM. This unit has dual micro SD card slots, a 2000 mAh battery, and OpenDingux software. All of this fits in a unit that's 13.8 centimeters long, 7.5 centimeters wide, and 1.5 centimeters thick. This unit is also very light, coming in at 160 grams. I want to pay special attention to the IPS display for just a moment. I'm capturing this video at 4K 30 FPS, which should hopefully be enough for you to judge the quality of this panel for yourself, but I will just qualify it here with this statement. This is one of the better looking displays in the 3.5-inch market. It's bright with vivid colors, it's a true IPS panel, so you're going to have amazing viewing angles, and it's tack sharp. I love that almost all of the free space on this device is dedicated toward a particular function, with the screen taking up almost the entire device. I imagine that this will be the most compact 3.5-inch model that we will see in this generation while retaining functionality. From here, let's focus specifically on the controls. Having a beautiful product means nothing if you can't use it for its intended purpose. It's probably painfully obvious right at first glance, but this device only has a single joystick. I've already had people say that this is a huge deal breaker for them, but I have to be completely honest with you. This hardware cannot support many things that use two joysticks, outside of some ports and select PS1 titles. Whether or not that fact is enough to be a deal breaker for you is entirely your opinion. The joystick that we do have is a low profile model with a smooth top. I would have liked to see a rubber cap on this like we have on the RG350, but for what it is, it's not bad. The profile of the stick sits just under the D-pad, and it's functional for all of the instances where it has coded support. If I'm being completely honest with you, I much prefer using the D-pad over a joystick for the games that I would play on a form factor this small. I'm going to speak more about the D-pad in a later section of this video, but I can just state here that it is by no means bad, it's not mushy, and it has a nice responsive click to it. This D-pad sits above a silicone component, so you have a decent amount of cushion under your thumb when you press. The keys also don't make any crazy audible noises that you find in the cheaper Chinese handhelds. Moving over to the ABXY keys, and you will see the SNES aesthetic is in full swing with this purple and black accent that I find very appealing. The keys on this device are very responsive, with a satisfying feeling when pressed. Compared to the other units from the previous generation, these keys also don't have any cheap sound when pressed. There is a small audible noise when you press these very fast, but there isn't any clicking noise, which is something that people don't really want in a retro handheld. Near our input keys are a nice set of auxiliary keys. Menu, Start, and Select are all situated in a nice compact row. These keys sit just above the finish of the device and are the only tactile keys on the front of this device. As such, these things require more pressure to make contact with the board than other keys on this device, but that's something that you'd hope for given their placement. You wouldn't want to accidentally press these during play. Also on the front of the unit are our power indicator lights. The original plan for this unit was to have 3 lights, and if I'm being completely honest with you, the original board design was absolute garbage with respect to the LEDs. These lights were like laser pointers directly into your eyeball anytime your hand moved from the input buttons. It was one of my main points of feedback for the developer when I got my last unit, so you can imagine how excited I was when they finally managed to fix that issue in this production release. The power on these LEDs has been turned down, and even in complete darkness, these things act more as accents on the device instead of a leading actor. If you own a transparent LDK, then you know just how powerful these LEDs can be at full power. Let's wrap up the front of this device by talking specifically about the speaker on this unit. When I got my last unit, I was initially worried that the sound from the speaker would be muffled by the front case given that there were no openings on the device. As you can see with this unit, there are cutaways on the sides of the grille to let the sound escape from this unit. I believe this grille design was originally implemented to help curb the potential light leakage from the aforementioned LEDs, but it survived into this main release even though it's no longer needed. I will say that for a mono speaker this small, the unit pumps out a crazy amount of volume. While I was filming part of this video, I had the volume set to around 70% and I left the room to grab something in another room around 30 feet away, and this thing was blasting, so you don't have to worry about any volume issues with this unit. As for the noise interference found in the BitBoy and the original Pocket Go, you'll be glad to know that there is no sound interference on this unit whatsoever. Audio tests are a key area that I focus on with these tests, but I'm going to do things a little bit differently here. The following is a mic'd up recording of the onboard sound at around 50% volume from the speaker grill. If you know the title of the game that I'm using, drop a comment with the title below. Hopefully that gives you some indication of the overall quality of the audio on this device. From here, let's head to the top of the device. I want to focus specifically on the shoulder buttons in particular, since this and the RG350 are the only devices in this generation to support these keys out of the box. If you own a Pocket Go 1, then you can see that these keys were modeled directly after that unit. These shoulder keys aren't the best, but they also aren't the worst. The R2 and L2 buttons are actually the better of the two shoulder buttons on this unit because the whole button can be pressed down instead of just a corner. I know that many of you will be glad to see that this unit uses a USB Type-C port for charging and data transfer. That being said, your data transfer options aren't going to be plug and play with this unit. You will need to mount the SD cards externally or use SSH, but I personally wouldn't bother using SSH on this device since the SD cards are so easy to access. The final buttons on the top of our device are our volume rockers and our power button. This may need to come at a later date, but this power button doesn't have the ability to suspend the device like the other devices in this and the previous generation. There isn't really anything special about these volume keys, but they are used in combination with the select button to change the brightness of this device. I would like to see this changed to something else for the obvious fact that it's super annoying to have no idea what your current brightness level is, and changing your brightness level also means that you change your volume level. This device also changes brightness levels slower than anything else on the market, so that will be one of the first tasks for community members to start working on when they start porting over custom firmware to this device. The best feature of this device compared to the other two in this generation is just how easy it is to change and access the SD cards. No back compartment to open up, no battery to remove, just simple access to TF slot 1 and 2. I'm just going to state this right here like I always do. It's not worth running this with only one SD card, and you shouldn't need to upgrade the 16GB card that comes with this unit. Keep your original SD card and pick up a second card for your ROMs. This will allow you to swap your ROMs between devices with ease, which is the much better option than trying to run an OS and ROMs off the same card. I frequently take my main ROMs card and plug it into other devices when I'm testing them for this simple convenience. Now that we've covered the outside of the device, let's take a quick tour at what the device looks like once it's disassembled. If we flip this over, we can take off the back panel to reveal our Xiaomi battery. This was a pleasant surprise when I first saw that the developer has decided to use a standard battery like this versus what other devices are doing in this generation. These batteries can be picked up for around $5 on AliExpress, so you can easily pick up a spare one with your unit, allowing you to go almost half a day before you need to charge. With the battery out, we just have 4 screws left to remove the whole back cover. If you've seen my modding videos on the RG350, then some of this will look familiar to you, but I would argue that this device is all around easier to service. From this point, we can see our CPU chip, which is the same one that's used in the RG350, but we are going to be using a different IPS panel on this unit. 2 screws are all that's blocking us from doing a full teardown on this device, but our speaker cable is routed around the left side, so we'll need to unhook that and remove the front joystick before we can get to the other side of this unit. At this point, you may be wondering, I'm already several minutes into a review on a device from the makers of the BitBoy and the Pocket Go. How have I not heard a single damning thing yet? And I think that's a testament to how long this device has been in development. There were actually some huge design issues in the pre-production models of this device that were all fixed, and I'm happy to report that they've even managed to make sure that this device has no light leaks. But one issue seems to have carried over from the pre-production. The D-pad has 4 little cylinders that protrude from the underside of the component. These make contact with the silicone pad underneath, which then makes contact with the PCB when you press down. One of these cylinders seems to be a tad shorter than the other three, so you'll need to press down a little harder than the other three directions. I don't know if this will be an issue that will make it into the units that ship out, but I have to mention it here in the interest of being completely honest. I've done a pretty quick fix for this by sticking some paper in the hole in the cylinder to make it a little longer. If your device has this issue, you'd probably be better off using a single piece of tape. You may need to do some trial and error, but you should be able to 100% fix this issue. But again, I think the injection mold that was used in this device may change to fix this problem straight from the factory. We've still got a lot of the review ahead of us, but the spoiler alert is that was the only real problem that I was able to find after 2 weeks of testing this device. Hopefully that's good news to many of you out there. While I'm putting this back together, I want to make note of some slight imperfections in the casing on this device that you can hopefully see on camera. My original device didn't have any of these issues, and I think my production sample is probably using some rejected shells, but the manufacturer is thinking about doing this device in a few other colors, namely red and black, but they are unsure of how many people would be interested in those colors. If you're interested in getting this in any other colors, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll make sure to pass along that feedback to the developer. Before we move on, I just want to make a quick comment on the overall feeling of this device. This is a small device, but it's completely usable even if you have big hands. It's super light and it feels great in the hand. I've gone through 3 full battery drains on this device and I haven't had any issues with hand cramps at all. One of the things that you'll notice when you first boot up this system is the fact that it's using the last updated firmware from the GCW0. In fact, this device can technically be seen as a direct clone of the old GCW0 more so than the RG350. I've gone ahead and transferred over some RG350 apps for some of the tests that you'll see in this video, but not everything will be compatible. Any calls to things that are specific to the RG350 will not run on this device until they are ported over. Given that these devices run the same chip, you can expect some of these ports to be happening and filtering over in the next few weeks, but the software that ships with the device should be good enough to get you off the ground. On the topic of emulation performance, I've already made 3 longer videos on this unit, so I'll reference those as we move on because I think you should try to develop a clear picture of what this device does before you decide to buy it or not. That being said, this thing does deliver for the price, and the fact that it's releasing so late into the year means that you can pick this device up for a bargain. I think if this device had released months ago like it was originally planned, we would have been looking at an $80 to $90 unit. But RG350 prices have since dropped, and this unit needs to compete directly with those units for market share, which means customers finally get to benefit from competition in the Chinese handheld space. At the time of making this video, this device goes for anywhere between $50 to $60, which is an absolute steal when you think about the fact that LDKs, RS97s, RG300s, and the original Pocket Go all sold or still sell for around that price with way worse performance. I want to keep this section of the video moving, so I won't dwell too long on any given system. I will just leave a little disclaimer here that frameskip hasn't been enabled for anything that you're about to see unless I state otherwise. This is pure performance right from the 1 GHz chip. I'm also recording this video at 4K 30 FPS, but I'm going to record a second video at 60 FPS and leave it linked in the description box below just to show you there is no screen tearing issues on this device at all.
Round 1, fight!
I think it's easy to get cynical when you see a new device made by the same people who failed to make a good BitBoy after numerous revisions, but for all intents and purposes, they seem to have hit the ball out of the park with this product. The Pocket Go 2 has an excellent screen, fast processor, and the same great performance that we've come to expect from this generation. It's small enough to easily take the place of any of the tiny emulation machines in this space, and it's cheap enough to be a device that you just throw in the bag and go. If you've been vying for a way to relive your younger days, but you aren't satisfied with the other flavors on the market, the new Pocket Go may just be the device for you. My name is Taki, and I've been your host on this review. If you like what you saw here and you want to show your support, consider subscribing to the channel and drop a like on this video. Feel free to share this review with anyone that you know that's interested in retro emulation devices. I'll catch you here later for another review. Now go out and enjoy the rest of your day. Taki out.